Hey guys, have you heard of our Lord and Savior democracy? Do you want to wage war against those who view our way of life as a threat? Battle massive hordes charging at your team with various instruments of freedom? Brutally obliterate your foes with powerful ordnance and nukes in the name of democracy and liberty? Hell yeah you do. Welcome to Helldivers 2, a game that's being developed by Arrowhead Game Studios and published by PlayStation Studios, or Sony if you want to keep it casual. Personally, I don't know diddly shit about Helldivers, and the only thing I do know about Helldivers is that the first game is like a top-down shooter, so it's definitely a change from their debut game. Another thing I know is that when the game initially came out, all the underdeveloped fetuses and the morally confused / questionable individuals of the internet crawled out of the woodworks and claimed how this game was supporting fascism. You know, the game that seems heavily inspired by the 1997 movie Starship Troopers, which is a satirical movie about militarism and war propaganda, or something like that. But, you know, I've never seen the movie, let alone read the 1959 books, so what do I know? And even then, people are fucking stupid, but away from that. This game is fun, and it's been an absolute vibe, and I would be lying if I said this game is awful. Big guns, explosions, democracy, yeehaw. But I do have some notes though. Short answer is, Helldivers 2 is a chaotic third-person co-op open-world shooter about democracy and humanity's divine right to spread it to the far reaches of the galaxy. Long answer is the rest of this video, so let's talk about it. So Helldivers 2 is a game that's being developed by Swedish game developers Arrowhead Game Studios, which I'll just be saying Arrowhead for the rest of this video because that's too wordy for me. It is also being published by Sony, or if you're looking at the Steam version, PlayStation PC LLC, aka Sony. One thing I'll give Arrowhead is this quote on their website, which is just fucking based. A game for everyone is a game for no one. I fuck with that quote so goddamn much. I felt like I've heard this from someone before Arrowhead said it, but I really can't place my finger on it. You play as one of many nameless Helldivers, an elite peacekeeping force for Super Earth, or if we go from the lore, the main military branch for Super Earth, who go behind enemy lines thanks to powerful ships called Super Destroyers and Hellpods, completing various objectives on various planets in the name of democracy. You drop onto a planet with 3 other Helldivers, hopefully, and exercise extreme liberty on your enemies, doing something simple like destroying eggs and nests to dropping a goddamn ICBM on the planet. Personally, I think the objectives are kinda similar to Deep Rock Galactic with its approach. You drop down, explore the map, kill a lot of things, complete your mission, and get out. Whether this is a good or accurate example, I'm not really sure. I really should play that game again, it's been almost a year since I played it. Mission-wise, you drop down to various planets that need liberation, varying from a planet that's more or less expected, to certain planets that give you a debuff to work with, all the way to Space Vietnam.
It was good serving with you, brother!
Dude, no! I will not fall! I fell! Fun fact, there was a specific planet that needed to be liberated so players can get access to mechs and vehicles to play around with, and the community had to work together to unlock it. I'm gonna be honest with you, I love the idea Arrowhead came up with instead of just giving it to people. I can't really explain it, but I really love the idea, but I digress. The missions by themselves are very self-explanatory. You get your gear, get shot onto the planet, blow shit up, and get out of there. Nothing really special. But this is kind of open world, so you know what that means. You get to explore. Remember kids, Helldivers should always take 2.4 seconds to enjoy the scenery. After all, a happy Helldiver is a deadly Helldiver. So every time you drop down, you have around 40 minutes to do everything you need. Unless it's a blitz mission, but I'll talk about that in a moment. You have a lot of time to explore the area you're in, and you can find various things, like side missions that can potentially help you on the mission, like radar towers to let you see everything on the map, to activating an artillery gun that gives you access to some extra ordnance. Or on the flip side, things like spore towers and detector towers that make your life harder than it should be, and something you should absolutely destroy because they are annoying as hell and deserve the nuclear treatment, to these minor points of interest that make you feel like you're playing a bare-bones Bethesda games with some loot scattered around it for you to pick up. There's also enemy outposts that you can destroy in a handful of ways, mostly explosive approaches, but don't worry about that. There's also a chance where you'll go on a blitz mission, which takes place on a smaller scale with significantly less time to work with, and you know, this can be nothing special or pure chaos depending on whom you fight and the difficulty. But if you end up running out of time, you kinda go into this sudden death mode where you can't use any stratagems, which I'll talk about it in a minute, and you pretty much have to lock in cause shit gets real. But when you've done everything, you head to an extraction point and call for an evac. Fun fact, when you run out of time, it automatically calls the evac for you, and you kind of work with like 2 minutes of grace to get your shit together. But away from that, there's a couple of difficulties you can play around with, and by a couple I mean 9. Why is there so many difficulties? So from the first 3 you can play from the top, that would be trivial, easy, and medium. Personally, if you ask me, the first 2 difficulties, baby shit, absolute pushovers. Medium difficulty, nothing special, may die, but that's part of the experience. It's a learning experience after all. Then you get the challenging and all the difficulties after that, then it changes. It changes from war is rad to war is hell, and shit gets crazy. Mainly because the higher the difficulty, the more enemies you bump into. More specifically, special enemies, which you have to use much stronger gear to deal with, otherwise it's gonna get overwhelming pretty quick and turn into a meat grinder. But even with all these difficulties and whatnot, in Helldivers 2, you're fighting a war on 2 fronts, for now. So I guess I could talk about the enemies for the time being. I fucking hate them. All of them. Disgusting pieces of shit. Fighting even the most simple variants fills me with unbridled anger that leaves me in a blind frenzy. I want to nuke the planets they're on out of fucking spite of their existence. I want to rip their eyes out and chew on them like they're goddamn grapes. Because I love democracy. So on one hand, you have the bug enemies, which you can channel your inner Starship Trooper on, and mostly what my B-roll footage is. You know, nothing special, no hyper-intelligence or anything. They're just bugs, and that alone is a perfect reason to kill them. Especially these rhino bugs called chargers that are heavily armored and need explosives to strip the armor off to kill them, that for some unknown reason turn on a fucking dime. There's also stalkers, which tend to be tied to a side mission to where you blow up their house, and they're fucking scary when they sneak up on you from off-screen. Brood commanders that kinda do the whole headless chicken gag when you blow off their heads, and finally the Bile Titans, which are just gargantuan units that can kill you by stepping on you if you get too close. I learned that from experience. Oh yeah, there's also these Bile Spitters. Fuck these guys, especially the green ones. Then you have the bots, or automatons. They are fucking scary. They can shoot you, they're more organized than the bugs, they have legitimate outposts, and they have fucking tanks. If that doesn't scare you, then I don't know what will. Most of the special enemies are simply just more tanky and shoot more, so it's not anything crazy to talk about. The Hulks are pretty scary though. They're big, strong, and are conveniently standing next to the objective every time. Then there's the Scorcher Hulks. Oh god, the robot's fucking laughing. He's got a fucking psycho laugh.
Terrifying.
Now keep in mind, I did say you're fighting 2 different factions, for now. Mainly because on the war map, there's this big open spot here, and after doing some lore research, that's probably gonna change in the near future. But don't worry, we have a secret weapon to deal with them. It's called firepower. So you have your primary weapons, which are what you expect, like assault rifles, SMGs, and shotguns, nothing real special. Then there's your secondaries, which in my totally unbiased opinion, all of them are trash, and the Redeemer is the only secondary you need. Then you get to the support weapons, you know, those big weapons. So when you start out, the first one you get is this LMG, and if you're like me, you'll think, oh, this is nice. Then you get your hands on things like flamethrowers and grenade launchers, where you also say, hey, this is cool, until you kill yourself with one by accident, and then you get the autocannon. I want to fuck the autocannon. I could spend the next 5 minutes jacking off a gun because of how much fun it is to use, but I'm not a gun tuber, so I'll keep it simple. It's literally like a 50 cal sniper with explosive rounds that you can switch to fully automatic. This is hands down my favorite gun in the game. The autocannon is the shit to my condom. Oh yeah, there's also the rocket launchers, they're cool too. But the body armor, on the other hand, you can switch from light, medium, and heavy. They all have their armor passives, which is fine, I guess. So we'll just move on to stratagems. So there's these things called stratagems you can call on a mission that can do various things. You're allowed to pick 4 stratagems for your mission to help you out. You know, like calling in your support weapons that I was just talking about a minute ago, to more defensive stuff like sentries that can help you keep your location secure, or mines if you want to be a fucking asshole, to more offensive stuff like orbital strikes and eagle strikes. The orbital strikes you can only use a couple times per mission, but are really powerful. Meanwhile, the eagle strikes, in contrast to the orbital strikes, can be refilled if you run out, but work on a smaller scale, so to speak. There's also some general stratagems everyone can use, like resupplies, self-explanatory stuff, or SOS beacons, which if you play games like Monster Hunter, it's pretty much like that. Then there's reinforcements, which is how you respawn your teammates if they get killed.
So sorry.
Did I mention that you're in a war and you're probably gonna die a lot? I hope I did. But you know, if you want to use any of your stratagems, you have to do this Dance Dance Revolution thing they call in each one, and let me tell you, man, it's hard pushing the inputs mid-fight when half of the planet is breathing down your neck. But onto the topic of watching your friends die in agony. Whenever you die, you have to wait on your teammates to reinforce you and vice versa. If you're playing solo, it just happens automatically. But you start with 5 on solo, 10 if there's 2, then 15, and then finally 20. If you run out of all of them, then you have to wait around like a minute or so to use them again. Unless everybody dies during that, then it's GG. Hope you did your primary objectives, otherwise you're shit out of luck. Now you may be thinking to yourself, geez, how do I get all these tools of liberation? All these wacky tools sure look fun to use. Well, that's easy. You unlock it from the battle pass. This is the part where I start talking shit with reckless abandon like an MW2 lobby. So one of the things that's an eyebrow raiser is this game's battle pass. Which I wouldn't be surprised if Akio Morita crawled out of his grave and coerced Arrowhead to add a battle pass by threatening to firebomb their studio of rice cookers, car radios, boomboxes, and PlayStations. But, you know, having the main means of unlocking your weapons and armor via this method is iffy to me. Like, how come you can't unlock most of this stuff with the reaccusation slips, like the stratagems? Actually, now that I think about it, the only use for reaccusation slips is unlocking stratagems, which, yeah. And I guess you could say it's just this game's progression system, so I shouldn't be talking about it in the first place. I mean, after all, it's free, so I probably shouldn't be complaining about it in the first place. But, you know, one thing to take away from these gripes that I make is that it's probably just a skill issue or something mildly inconvenient because I have nothing better to do. But in the premium version, there's some interesting stuff, like an assault rifle that could stun lock a good amount of enemies, a shotgun that shoots incendiary rounds and whatnot, and that's a little questionable. It's only a matter of time before they put something really good in it that'll make the sweaty man-children fiend over it, or play it dirty and start adding a bunch of bullshit because Sony told them to. But you may be saying to yourself, but Void, you shouldn't be complaining about the battle pass. You can unlock the battle pass by finding super credits in the missions, Void. And you're right, it's definitely something you can do if you don't want to spend money. I should know because I already grinded for it and got it. It only took around like, oh, I don't know, 22.5 hours in my experience, but don't worry about that. Another useless gripe I have for Helldivers 2 is the controls for PC. They kinda fucking suck. You want a dolphin dive? Fun fact, there's dolphin diving in this game. You have to press the Alt key for it. Crouching, C. Stratagems, you have to hold control for that one, buddy. What's that? You want to swap your weapons? Don't think about scrolling up and down with the middle mouse. You gotta use the fucking numbers. Because fuck you, that's why. Seriously, who made this shit? Now, before you tell me to go into the options and change up the key bindings to tailor to my playstyle,
No.
I feel like it's common practice in any game with guns in it to be able to swap with middle mouse scrolling. Or did Sony tell Arrowhead not to do that? Actually, it's probably Sony's doing now that I think about it. Now, I want to bitch about difficulty now, specifically 5 and up by yourself, which, if you're unlucky, doing them solo is a fucking pain. Now, you may be saying that this is a dumb gripe that can easily be fixed by playing with other people, and you're right, it is indeed easily fixed by just that. Too bad people don't fucking join. 225,000 players my ass. They're probably sitting in their Super Destroyers playing Stratagem Hero with their finger up the ass. That's fine, I don't need them. Though it would be nice to open up those 2-man bunkers though. Yeah, good luck opening those on solo. Then there's Joel. That's it, that's my whole gripe. Another thing I want to say, even though this is probably just a really dog shit opinion, is that people are saying that this is a banger of an indie game. But if you ask me, this is not an indie game. I don't know about you, but having your indie project be financially backed by a juggernaut like Sony doesn't really seem very independent to me. You know, it's like if Ultra Kill or Lethal Company was published by Microsoft. It just doesn't add up. But hey, what do I know about game development? I don't know anything about making games, let alone living in Sweden. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is GameGuard, aka this game's anti-cheat. It's pretty fucking sketch if you ask me. So for those that don't know, GameGuard is a form of DRM that's pretty much a rootkit that digs into your PC that works on a kernel level, which in layman's terms means this thing has more access to your computer than you do. I know this has probably been talked about before, but I'm still gonna talk about it. PlayStation bros probably have nothing to worry about since the only thing their PlayStation can do is play games like this and give them a superiority complex because they can play Bloodborne and Demon Souls on it or some shit. After all, Sony's a stingy shit with their exclusives. I really want to try Ghost of Tsushima, it looks fucking fire. And any gamer worth their salt knows that DRMs are a fucking cancer cell to a video game. But, you know, talking about DRMs and how bad they are is a completely different beast. Even then, I doubt Arrowhead's gonna be trying to do anything about this, because why the hell not? So if you value your PC's health, there's something to consider then. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is Helldivers 2 is a double-edged sword. Yeah, it's definitely a fun game, but it's definitely got some interesting stuff in it. But, you know, I already bought it, so it's nonsense to complain about it. After all, consumers gotta consume. If the game is just good enough, people will buy it. If you think I'm full of shit, look at the people who bought Skull and Bones. But anyways, link is in the description if you wish to check it out. I'm gonna go jack off in the corner and pretend I'm a good person. May we never meet again.
I did it.
I did it, Poppy.
I did it. I killed men.
I killed man.